Who was the biggest loser of UFC 300, right? Who lost the most aura, the most hype, the most vibe? Whose career suffered the most from UFC 300? Was it Justin Gaethje? Was it Charles Olivera? Was it some of the winners like Bo Nickel, aljamin Stirling? We're going to talk about that in this video. I know we're still talking about UFC 300, but honestly, what else is there really to talk about in MMA at the moment? We're all sort of coming down from the collective hangover that was UFC 300. So let's start right away with probably the most obvious loser on the list, but I don't know if he lost the most, right? Justin Gaethje. Okay, look, just real quick. I know where we were with Justin Gaethje, but let's wrap it up really quickly together. Justin Gaethje could have sat out for 1 more month or 2 more months, whatever, man. Sat out for a couple of more months and could have been fighting for an undisputed lightweight title. His dream, every lightweight's dream. He could have been there, but instead he took the Max Holloway fight and got absolutely flatlined, right? He got checked out. But here is the thing in lightweight, and it sort of goes for Charles Olivera as well, doesn't it? Both Justin Gaethje and Charles Olivera are those two forever top 5 fighters in the lightweight division. And it seems like that division is so competitive and so hard to stay relevant in that with either of them, all you really need is 1 more win and the timing to be right, and you can get right back in there. I don't know if Justin Gaethje's aura has actually lost that much, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, the kick that Max Holloway landed that broke his nose was a well-timed, pre-planned kick. So I do not want to take away from the kick itself. And Max was throwing that kick over and over again. And for some reason, Gaethje kept ducking into it. I don't know why he has a habit of doing that, but Max Holloway's team was able to see that, capitalize on that, and jump on it. So good on Max Holloway's team. But he is very, very lucky that it landed on the nose and broke the nose at the end of the first round. Justin Gaethje went ahead to win the second round, went even further to win the 4th round. It was a competitive fight. Much the same for Charles Olivera. It was also an incredibly competitive fight. So I think with both of them coming off a loss in incredibly competitive fights in an incredibly stacked division, probably the hardest division in all of combat sports, I don't think they actually lost that much. They certainly lost their next in line status, and they do have to keep grinding it out. But I don't think they're as far away from a title as some people are saying. I've seen some people out there commenting that Charles Oliveira's run at a title is completely gone. Charles Olivera was one of the most dominant lightweights we've ever seen. I know everyone's going to be jumping up and down and go, oh, Khabib. Khabib was one of the most dominant lightweights we've ever seen, maybe the most dominant, but Charles Olivera is right up there as well for one of the most dominant. Charles Olivera was a phenomenal champion, and I can see him getting one good clean win and then being right there in the conversation again, especially if the timing doesn't match up for the other contenders at lightweight. So Justin Gaethje, Charles Olivera, did they really lose that much this weekend? I don't think so. I think there were people that lost far more when it comes to UFC 300, and some of them were the winners of their fights. Before we get to the next people on my little list here, some of you have subscribed to the channel because of the live streams that we're doing. If you enjoy the live streams, we're going to be doing a joint live stream, me and another channel called Bad MMA Math. I'll leave the details to it right here. It's on when the UFC is usually on this weekend, so come and jump on for that joint live stream. Around going, man, I hate the Apex cards, but it sure is better than nothing. Come and jump on for that. Okay, let's get on to the next one. Was the biggest loser of this weekend Cody Garbrandt? Cody Garbrandt. It has now become so clear to all of us that the kid has no contendership future in him. He is the gatekeeper. Now, I don't know if his loss really ranks up that much because there were a lot of people out there, I was one of them, but there were a lot of people out there that were not that hyped on Cody Garbrandt just because he crushed 2 cans in the last year. He has looked horrible ever since he got flatlined by TJ Dillashaw, and I do not think that much has changed just because he can beat some bottom feeders. I do not think Cody Garbrandt has any place in the top 10 of his division. I know there are some Cody Garbrandt fans out there that are going to hate me saying that, but he has no chin, no wrestling, and he styles on people when he is well out of range. Once he is in range and actually gets clipped with a couple of shots, he still lets his emotions get to him, and his chin is not getting better with age. So as for Cody Garbrandt, he almost had that, oh my God, can he make another run at the title moment? And now that is completely gone. So is Cody Garbrandt one of the biggest losers from the weekend? To me, the biggest loser from UFC 300 is someone who won their fight, someone who is talking about title shots, someone who has no idea about the company that they are in. That's Aljamain Sterling. I loathed Aljamain Sterling's performance at UFC 300. It was one of the most frustrating performances to me ever. Aljamain Sterling won his fight and won it dominantly. But Aljamain Sterling needs to sit back and look at the landscape of where he is. We have talked about this as a community so much. The UFC is not a meritocracy. The UFC is an entertainment company. There are people out there like Bilal Muhammad who are getting aged out and never getting a title shot because they are boring fighters. People do not want to see them as a champion, so the UFC is just pushing them to the side. There are people out there that 100% deserve an undisputed title shot, like Tom Aspinall, but instead Stipe Miocic is getting it because it might sell more pay-per-views on the day, or it's going to push some UFC narrative. Marlon Vera got a title shot over Merab Dvalishvili. The absolute what the hell am I trying to say? The examples out there of how we are not in the PFL, we are in the UFC are endless. And Aljamain Sterling went on to UFC 300 and had the worst fight on the card. Now, you can say, oh, he had the worst fight on the card, but it was a card full of bangers. It doesn't matter. It's UFC 300, okay? Every single sports fan was tuning into that. It was one of the biggest cards ever. All of the talking points coming out of UFC 300 are talking about how amazing it was, how amazing the knockouts were, and how Aljamain Sterling was the worst fight on the card. He is going to be known for that. And not only is he going to be known for that going forward, but the UFC have already had him as a champion in the past. They know exactly how many numbers Aljamain Sterling does when he is the headliner. They know how many numbers, they know what it takes to promote him, and they know what happens when he is a champion. So in the future, Aljamain Sterling might go ahead to beat Brian Ortega. He might go on a win streak. But no matter what, the UFC are going to be looking at the next pay-per-view ahead of them and trying to figure out how they can make the most money on that pay-per-view. That is the entire purpose of the UFC. And all they're going to think of is Aljamain Sterling backpack riding and holding people down and using the no knees to a grounded opponent rule to his advantage, which is ridiculous. Can we please bring in one champion's rule set so we can see Aljamain Sterling knocked out? People do not mind a bit of wrestling, but they need to see it with some ground and pound or some submissions, okay? You cannot just sit there and backpack ride your way to a championship, especially when you've already done that before and the UFC have already tried to push you out of your title shot. Aljamain Sterling was a UFC champion, and the UFC set up a fight between him and Sean O'Malley, giving Aljamain Sterling, the champion, a 6-week turnaround, hoping that he would come into that fight with some injuries just so they can get him out of there. Do you really think they're going to give someone like that another shot at a title? And Aljamain Sterling should know that, or someone in his team should be enough of a mate and not a yes man to tell him that. Max Holloway won $600,000 in bonuses over the weekend. There was hundreds of thousands of dollars of bonuses on the table. And Aljamain Sterling came in and backpacked his way to a win. It was bad for the fans, it was bad for the company, it was bad for his career. He is one of the biggest losers of UFC 300 because that win got him no fans, no money, and no sway with the UFC. Horrible, horrible work from Aljamain Sterling. Embarrassing. Who do you think was the biggest loser of UFC 300? Was it Justin Gaethje, Charles Olivera, Aljamain Sterling, or Cody Garbrandt? Let me know that down there in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And of course, I'll see you all in the next one.